Hi everyone, you may have seen my Holy Grail product 1, which went up a couple of weeks ago, and I got quite a good feedback from that, and so I was kind of assuming that people wanted to see more. I have a few products. There aren't too many really, to be honest. I'm not going to put anything into my Holy Grail category that doesn't belong there, and as a result there might be 7 or 8 products maximum that I would give Holy Grail status to. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it here, so it will explain why I'm doing this. But basically, I am choosing products from my kit that I couldn't be without, that I would buy again and again and again, products that I would miss if I didn't have them. Now, they have to be great on every job for everything, so that's really important criteria. So I do buy an awful lot of makeup, as you know, but to be honest, most of it is average, and a lot of it is below average, even some really high-end products. And some of it can be a little better than average, but it's nowhere near kind of like Holy Grail status. So product 2 in my Holy Grail series is Select Cover Up by MAC. And I couldn't be without this. I've tried every MAC concealer. I have tried concealers by, I would imagine, by every big brand available in Ireland at this stage. I also have tried loads of drugstore kind of type concealers. That's been more in the name of YouTubing and blogging. I have never found one worthy to go into my kit that I would actually use on a client. And actually even some of them I wouldn't rely on heavily myself. I've had the Makeup Forever Camouflage palette. I've had the Veil Camouflage palette. I've had just the Makeup Forever pots of liquid concealer. I've just tried everything. Benefit, Erase Paste. I've just worked my way through the lot. And I've found this one concealer that I absolutely love. The main reason for that is that the coverage is excellent. Another thing about it is that it's quite waxy in texture, so it's fairly waterproof. So if somebody is wearing this under their eyes and they cry, you don't have to worry about a mess. And that's a really kind of big thing if you're working on brides, or if there's going to be tears when someone's wearing their makeup. This is a big issue. So if you have a really lovely creamy concealer, or a nice concealer that has light reflecting pigments in it, like YSL, Touche Éclat, when you cry, those run. They don't stay put. They're not designed really to stay put. That's not how they're marketed at all. You also only need a tiny dot, and what I tend to do is I dot a bit. I just grabbed one, and this one is missing a lid, so it needs to go in the bin. But it's a tiny, I would squeeze a tiny bit out onto my hand, and then I will apply a little where I need to on a client, or if I'm using my own one on myself. And then the most important thing about this concealer is that you don't use your fingers. Now the thing is, if you have this and you use your fingers and you love it, then perfect. For me, I have to use a brush. Now, I'm not a you have to use a brush kind of person. I'm not. I happily smear on all my makeup with my fingers. But this product goes on much better and very flawless if you use a fluffy brush. And the brush that I've been using is either the MAC 224 or the Sigma SS224. This is the Sigma one, but I happily use either. The Sigma one is a little kind of straighter and a little less fluffy. So it is better, I think, for applying this sort of concealer. Now, using a fluffy brush can work with probably most of your concealers. The fluffiness of it will disperse the product evenly, will blend it into the rest of your skin, will make sure it goes into into every single little nook and cranny that it needs to. It's also great if you're working on somebody who has fine lines or who is more heavily lined, or if that's yourself. It's great if you are, if you have spots like me, because if you're using it, because it doesn't move. So I will put some on my hand, dot it onto the spot, which I have a giant one here. So I put a dot there, and then I just get my blending brush and I just fluff it around. Now, for some reason, well, not for some reason, when I'm using this brush to blend, I tend to hold my makeup brushes like a child holds a crayon. But I don't actually do that when I'm blending this in, because you would be a little bit too rough. And it's not skin I'm worried about, it's more that I want a kind of airbrushed finish. So I tend to use my middle finger and my thumb and leave my index finger standing up, and that kind of gives you're balancing the brush on your index finger, but it gives you the control you need to go exactly where you want, but it also gives you enough control that you can just barely touch this off your skin and you're lightly buffing into your skin. If you scrub this heavily, your concealer will not look good. So it's about a really, really light hand. Now I've had my own personal tube of this, I have had for about a year, and I use it almost all the time. With MAC, you know, those of you who are familiar with MAC know how the colour system works. But for those of you who aren't, you have NW and NC shades, and they tend to go up in 5s, well, mainly in the kind of first few shades anyway. So for example, this one, if your NW is for neutral warm, and then NC is for neutral cool. Now with MAC, do it kind of the opposite way that most makeup artists think of colour. MAC see neutral warm, MAC see warm shades as red based shades, whereas most people would think that red and pink in the skin wouldn't, you know, they would call that cool. Most makeup artists would call that cool, and most makeup schools would teach people that that is cool. But MAC come from a different side of things altogether, and I think that's kind of where all the big confusion comes from with NC and NW. And what you need. So NW will start at NW 15 and it will go up to NW 20, 25, 30, etc. They should go lighter than NW 15 completely. NC 15, although it's technically the same colour with a different undertone, is actually a little bit lighter though. So just, you know, that's something to bear in mind. But it is very hard for people who are very, very fair. Like my sister is extremely fair. Like she's like Nicola Roberts fair in winter, and you can't get a product light enough for her skin to match her neck, and it's ridiculous. So I think MAC, like especially a company like that manufacture products for makeup artists, they should really cater for every single skin tone. The only time of the year that I don't use this on myself is if I have an NW20 and I have an NW25 and I'm somewhere in between and I can't be bothered mixing them. If I'm in a rush, I'm not going to be taking products out to mix. At the moment I'm at a 25, so oh yeah, I need to say as well that this looks amazing on camera, and I've used this on television on myself and on clients, and it looks completely flawless, absolutely flawless. And I don't, there is no other concealer I've tried that has given that kind of the polish that this does. It can be a little too much, like if you don't need a lot of coverage. This is more of a medium to full coverage, and you think because it comes in a tube and that it's a, you know, it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of waxy and thin and stuff, it still gives you mega coverage, even though it's not creamy and thick. It does set as well, so you've got to blend it in and then leave it alone. You can let it set. You can set it with powder, but to be honest, I haven't actually used powder over it myself in the last little while. I've kind of been going on a no powder phase, and even on television it kind of sets great. So it also photographs really well. It doesn't have any SPF or anything in it like that, which you might think is a bad thing, but for photography it's a really important thing that it doesn't have SPF in it. So definitely worthy of Holy Grail status. I don't know if it would if it didn't come with the, you know, if I wasn't using the brush, but these two combined, absolutely. And if you really struggle, like I find sometimes if I have kind of a little bit of discoloration under my eye and I don't have time to colour correct, that a tiny dot of this, not right under the eye because that can look a little much, but a tiny dot of this in just where your blue vein is and the inside of your eye, and one tiny dot there, and get your brush, don't use your, you know, your full pencil fingers, and if you do this, then you can just barely touch it and then buff it into the skin. You can do it really fast. You don't even have to look in the mirror because you can feel it. You should look in the mirror just to check, but you know. So I really recommend that. And I'm going to record more of these. I obviously know which products which products are deserving. So I'll keep these coming, and thanks for watching. Bye.